which I've now pressed. So we're recording this session. Do feel free to remind me in case I ever forget, and also Tim, who'll be your tutor next week. And, just feel free to tell us to don't forget to record because it is useful and you can come back and listen to the sessions again. And of course, if you ever can't make a session or if you're late, you can go back and hear. And finally, I've got end meeting. Again, I don't know if you can see that, but when we finish today, I will be pressing that. Okay. Can I get a thumbs up from everybody that we're all hearing loud and clear and everybody's happy? Great, 3 thumbs up, fantastic. So we will start punctually at 6 o'clock and we'll finish punctually at 9 o'clock. I'm actually, when I give you my sessions, I'm out in the Western region and I need to take college transport back to college accommodation. So that means that I have to finish at 9. If for any reason we find that the sessions are not giving us enough time, then I can start a little earlier, but I can't finish any later. But generally, after 3 hours, everybody's kind of crawling for the door and exhausted, and those people start looking at watches and etc. So usually 3 hours is fine, but if needs be, I can start a bit earlier. I'm just going to share my phone number with you, 050 662 6. Please send me a text message just saying this is Monica, this is Ambreen, this is Yonka, and then I'll save your number. If I don't recognize the number, I don't answer the phone. I don't know about you, but I'm getting loads of junk, spammy phone calls, so I just stopped answering the phone unless I know who it is. So please send me that text message and I know to answer to you, or not. See how much stalking goes on first. So I think that's all the admin. I guess Camilla will join us in a minute. She's new to Skype, so to Zoom, so she may be struggling with it. Just while we're waiting, and because it's the first session, let's do a typical TEFL-tastic introduction about ourselves, and I'll go first. Yonja. Perfect. Okay, thank you. I'll tell you what we can do, actually. I remember the first day on my Delta, which I did in 2001, we had to say something about our names. So I'm going to introduce myself and I'll say something about my name as well, which will help us to remember everybody's pronunciation. And I'm also quite curious about names, so why not? So I'll go first. My name's Jonathan Turner. I'm a HCT General Studies faculty and a CELTA and a Delta trainer. I've been in the UAE 6 years. My background is in TESOL and online and distance education. And my name, I think, is a biblical name. I'm based in Abu Dhabi, that's important. My name is a biblical name, Jonathan. I think it's a Hebrew king, something like that. I'm not too sure. I'm not someone who knows any of the religious books particularly well, but that's my understanding. And Turner is a work-related name. So it was a turner was somebody who made stuff with wood, I guess. But my real name is something like I can't remember now. Something like Brabransky. It's a Polish name. But long story, my grandmother ended up with this Turner guy, so I got saddled with his name. But my paternal name is actually a Polish one. So that's me, and let's hand over to Monica. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and something about your name.
Hello, everybody. My name is Monica Festa. I'm from America, and my first name, Monica, is Latin, and it means advisor. And it can also mean a loner, someone who's mono, who's by themselves. But the first, Monica, Saint Monica was Berber, actually. Anyway, and she married a Latin guy. I looked into it because I'm a Muslim now, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't the name of a goddess, because then I'd have to change it. And I think I still am supposed to change it because it's a Christian name. But I like my name. It's my name. It's my identity. My Muslim name is Malak, but which means angel. And I don't feel comfortable going with that because I'm far from it. I wish I could be an angel. Anyway, and my last name is Festa, which means party in Italian, very close to fiesta, which is Spanish. And my father is full Italian American, and so that's where the Italian comes from. But my mother is a mix of British, French, and German. So I'm quite a mutt, as they say. What else can I say about me? I've been in the UAE now for 10 years almost, and I've been teaching at HCT for, I'm going on my 6th year, and I'm in the foundations program. So that's me.
Right.
I'm in Abu Dhabi.
Thanks, Monica. Yeah, that's an important one. Festa's also, I wondered if it was had some Portuguese, because Festa is also Portuguese for party.
Yeah, very close to the Italian and Spanish. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Monica. And Breen, you're up next, please.
All right. Hi, everyone. This is Ambreen. My full name is Ambreen Zahra. I'm Pakistani and living in Sharjah. My name is an Urdu name because that's my mother tongue. It's Ambreen, means it's from amber. Rather, I should say it's not. Its origin is from Arabic. Amber is a kind of fragrance which people burn, and when it is burned, it gives fragrance. So amber, ambrine is from, like the person who has that fragrance. And Zahra, my second name, is an Islamic name. It is our Prophet's daughter name, and it is in our culture that we like the second name, or either first or the second name should be an Islamic name. So that's why the complete name is like that, Ambreen Zahra. And I'm teaching here at University of Sharjah, and living here on University City Sharjah campus, and teaching and preparing students for IELTS and TOEFL.
Thanks very much, Breen. So we've got an IELTS teacher, that's good. Great. Let's finish with Yonca.
Hi, I'm Yonca, and I'm from Turkey. I've been living in Abu Dhabi for over 6 years. I'm married to a Brit, and we have 2 children. My background is I'm a landscape architect, but after we came to Abu Dhabi, I just decided I wanted to do something different. So I did CELTA. Now I'm happy to do Delta. I think my name is very Turkish. It means clover, like the Irish shamrock. And it comes from a dream that my mom had before she had me. She had a dream that she was having a baby girl and naming her Yonca. So that's where my name came. Otherwise, they were going to give me a very old Arabic name, I think. Anyway, I've been teaching for 5 years on and off with CERT as a part-time teacher, doing different sorts of courses with ADNOC and military programs and police college and naval college.
The naval.
I know, very. Have you been there?
I've heard about it, yeah.
Anyway.
Sweat that one.
And they wanted me to stay there, and I was like, not sure.
No. I had a couple of friends who did that gig, and they one of them actually just packed up his bags and left and went to live in Turkey instead. He couldn't do it. There you go. Yeah.
So that's me.
Okay, thanks very much, Anja. So the only other person who's, don't forget to mute Anja, the only other person who's not here is Camilla. I'm just going to check my email and see if she's sent me any panicky emails. No, nothing from her. So we will see if she joins us or not. It is mandatory to attend these sessions. So, I mean, you know, it's not massively enforced, but if anybody were to go over, you know, what felt like too many missed sessions, then we would be obliged to inform Cambridge that, you know, we wouldn't be able to put you forward for the module 2 external. So if you're going to have any major attendance issues, please let us know. And one way that we can ameliorate that to an extent is by having you look and seeing the recording. But generally speaking, you know, we should be fairly tight, and you know, you should attend all the sessions or nearly all the sessions, please. Okay, I think just to give Camilla a chance to join us, I'll start with something I wanted to do later in the session first, but it's kind of an individual thing. So it means that we don't have to start the kind of what's the delta and whatnot. And maybe she'll be here in a couple of minutes. So the first thing I need to do is figure out a time when either myself or Tim can come and observe you. So I hope you've already read in the handbook that we need to carry out a diagnostic observation. So we need to figure out with each of you when and how that can take place. So I'm going to give you my alternatives and Tim's alternatives, and you tell me what you think. So we are available all day Monday, that's me. And Tim is Tuesday PM as his first choice. So he finishes class at 12:40. And so, you know, he could be, I guess, Ambreen, you're the furthest away. I guess he could be at your place by any time after 3 PM, I would say, should be okay. A bit later would be good. So let's just, I know this is boring for the others, and if I'm not talking to you, then perhaps you could go to this link, if you haven't already, and just take a look at, oh, I can't copy paste, got to pay. Oh, hang on a minute. Can't do that. Can't do that. No, I can't do that. Sorry. Let's just do this a second. Sorry, I've just been doing a class using another platform, and I'm kind of getting my platforms mixed up. I've just been using the Blackboard Live platform, and now I've got onto this one. I can't remember what to do. Okay, so if I'm not talking to you, perhaps you could just go onto this page, which I sent you the link for, and scroll down. And if you haven't answered any questions, these are the questions that you need to be answering. So we'll have a look at that together in a minute, but I'll just start with Monica and see when we can arrange the diagnostic, and then I'll come back to Ambreen, and then Yonja as you are. That's the order that you appear on my screen. Okay, so Monica, what do you think of those days? How do they look to you? That's our Monday all day or Tuesday PM.
Okay. Well, I'm teaching both of those days, and I don't think I've met Tim. Not that that's a problem, but I guess I would prefer to have you come. I guess I don't know. When's the soonest? You want next Monday?
I was thinking the week, because we've got Islamic New Year on the 15th of October. So I wondered if, I think that's the week after next.
Yeah.
I wondered if that week would be a good week, just because, you know, we've got sort of the rest at the end, and I travel a lot, Medina Zayed and Ruwais. So for example, if I go to Sharjah as well, then that's a lot of driving. So it'd be a bit less driving for me. So that would be the best week for me if that suits you. And that would also give you nearly 2 weeks to prepare your lesson.
So that's the 12th, I think.
Monday. Yeah, I can't, because I'm sharing my screen, I can't check the dates. But if you have a look, whatever the Monday is of that week.
I guess, yeah. I mean, that's right before our final exams and foundations, so it's going to be a lot of review. I can do kind of a one-off, special, as though I was like introducing something new, but really we're in a stage where we'll all be reviewing.
Yeah, I don't think it's a major problem. I mean, I think if you just stipulated that it's a review lesson, and just still had some kind of lesson shape, rather than say, right, we're going to spend an hour looking at grammar.
Not a quiz or like a review, like practice quiz. I wouldn't do something like that, but maybe something interactive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you would do, okay, so we've got some target language, which is going to be, we're going to do some review. If it's IELTS, we're going to review for the speaking, and we're going to look at some, discourse management phrases for the speaking exam, or, some connectives for the writing, and do a lesson on it. But I think, it would fit in with a review fine.
Okay. Okay, then next Monday the 12th would be fine.
What time?
Mornings are always better. The students I have large classes this course. I have about 30 almost students. So they're better in the morning. So I would say we start at 8:30 and for some reason this year it's from 8:30 all the way till 10:10. That's the actual time we're in the classroom. And I know that's not typical, but we've got a lot being thrown at us from the management.
I know. My nephew works at Abu Dhabi Women, so I get all the gossip.
Yeah, it's been tremendous. But anyway, if you want to come at 8:30, I don't know if that's too early.
I mean, I've got to be honest, I work in Medina Zayed on Sunday, and I drive back on Sunday night. So I'm not on my best very early. I'm also thinking if we could finish at 10:10, have you got a break after that?
Yeah, until 10:40.
Right, because that would be ideal to do feedback.
So 9:30 until 10:10?
Yeah, it would probably be more like 9:20.
Okay, 9:20. So Monday the 12th of October at 9:20 till 10:10.
Yeah, and you're at Khalifa campus, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So
wait a minute, Monday. I'm sorry. I just realized I didn't. Okay, my schedule's. I just realized. Okay, is it possible to move that from? I don't even have a class at 8:30. I'm not even thinking clearly. Sorry.
Don't worry. I could also do the same on the Sunday. It happens. I'd forgotten that you're in Abu Dhabi. I could do Sunday morning early.
Okay. Well, why don't I have another class at what do you call it? 10. I do have a class at 10:40, but until 12:20. So we could have you come in 11:20. Could I just move it 11? 2 hours later? 11:20 until it goes until 12:20. So it could be 11:30 to make it
You see how long the lesson's going to be. It can be 60 minutes. It's up to you. 50 or 60.
11:30 till 12:20?
Yeah, no, so you can do 50 or 60, you decide. Just let me know beforehand.
Okay. I think 11:30 till 12:20, and then I've got a break.
Okay, so we'll do feedback straight afterwards.
Okay.
So that's Monday at 11:30 till 12:20.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. I'll send you an invitation email now. Okay, thanks, Monica. If you mute, and then I'm going to send you that email, and then I'll move on to Bree. I'm just going to stop the share for a second, okay? Monica. Diagnostic Ops. That's Tim. That's C. And, well, where is it again? I can't remember. Where's the meeting thing? I remember. Monday, 12 at. Okay, Bree.
Yeah, first of all, I want to tell you that I'm teaching in the morning. I start at 8 and I finish at 1 o'clock. But I could make it 2 o'clock also, because I can swap my class like 1 o'clock, because from 1 to 2 is my office hour. So I'm not teaching in the evening, I'm teaching in the morning. So, and Monday is fine, like next Monday after Monica. Would that be fine? That is, I think so.
Well, no, Monica's in Abu Dhabi and you're in Sharjah, so I wouldn't finish until 12:20, and I wouldn't be able to get to Sharjah until about 3 o'clock, you see.
So?
Hang on a minute, let me think.
Because I'm not teaching in the evening.
Yeah, that's no problem. We could either do it with me on the following Monday, or you could, let me just double check Tim's timetable. He sent it to me. He does have another morning space, but it's quite tight. It's an alternative. And let's just have a look. Let's just open this. What time do you start in the morning, Amber?
8 o'clock.
And so 8 until when?
From 8 to 10, and then from I finish at 9:40, and then I start at 10 o'clock, from 10 to 10:50, and then from 11 to 12 to 1. 10 to 11 and 12 to 1.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do then. I mean, either I will come the following Sunday,
okay,
or Tim will come on the Wednesday, which is
okay.
Wednesday the 11th.
What's the date? Wednesday. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. The date.
So either Wednesday the 14th with Tim.
14th. Okay. All right. Okay.
Or it will be Monday the 19th with me.
Okay. All right.
Send an email.
All right.
To you, and
okay.
I'll copy. I don't know why your email doesn't come up. There we go. Let's copy Tim. diagnostic. Now, bear in mind that I will see all of you twice, and Tim will see all of you twice.
Okay.
Okay, so if, for example, I see you for the diagnostic and your first observation, Tim will see you for observation 2 and observation 3.
Okay.
So everybody will see everybody the same amount of times.
Okay.
1, Tim. Could you mute, please? Option 1, Tim, Wednesday the 14th at 8 a.m. Option 2, John on Monday the 19th at a little later. Don't forget, we will both see you twice each. Tim, can you go first with this? Camilla is not here, and she may be Sharjah based as well, in which case perhaps I would be better doing both. Breathe. Please please let me know if these times are okay, and we will see who comes in the next day or so. Thanks, John. Okay, great. And let's go with Yonja, please.
I haven't got any classes at the moment.
Yeah, I know. You're based in Abu Dhabi, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay. So these are the options.
Mm-hmm.
The first option is you find some students. Now, where do you live?
Khalifa Park area?
Okay. That's up between the bridges, kind of around that area. Is that right? More or less? Sheikh Mosque around there?
Yeah, before that, yeah.
Okay. So you're kind of on island. You're not too far from us. So you could either, I mean, especially for the diagnostic, you could literally get 3 or 4 neighbours and, either me or Tim will come around and sit around your kitchen table and watch you teach. That's not, not a problem. That's the first option. The second option is I will find you a group of usually beginner-ish, usually Latin American women based in Abu Dhabi. When we do CELTAs, my wife, who is Ecuadorian, helps me with recruiting from the Latino community.
I like the idea of that.
Okay, so if that happens, again, I mean, an option is either to meet at CERT in Abu Dhabi, which, if you already know, is a good option. And, Tim actually teaches at the men's college, so he can just literally come across. Or it would be to again, meet at somebody's house as a possibility as well. But I think with you being CERT, Tim being men's college, that's probably a good option. But obviously it would be kind of unknown students. We wouldn't know who was coming until they came, and we'd have an approximate idea, but we wouldn't know until it happened. And then the third option is for you to sneak into one of Tim's classes. But as my colleague Monica will attest to, trying to get anything done at HCT at the moment is virtually impossible, and the amount of paperwork that would be involved would be outrageous. So you would basically just slip in, teach, and slip out, and Tim would get into trouble if he were caught. I think it's ludicrous, I'm sorry to say, but there you go. But those are the options. The easiest option from a logistical point of view is for you just to go in and teach one of Tim's classes with a pair of dark glasses on and slip out afterwards. The sort of safest route is perhaps, but the most work route is for me to get you some students, and we'll do it in Abu Dhabi. And kind of the not too desirable, unless you really knew that you could get a group yourself, would be for you to organise a group and for us to teach. So your first decision you need to make is, which of those do you think is most suitable for you?
Which one's more suitable for you?
Well, I mean, you know, it's,
Tim.
I mean, well, that's the easiest, but that's, I mean, it's okay. Let's not do it that way. Let's leave it in. Let's leave the ball in Tim's court with that. I think because I will be observing Monica and Ambreen, Tim will definitely observe you.
Okay. Do you want me to talk to Tim about?
Yeah, if you could liaise with him. I mean, I think that you would either just go into the men's college. I mean, you could just go into CERT and then go round the back into the men's college and teach. No one would be any the wiser. Teach your students, and then, you know, the last hour, and then you can go and have coffee in Starbucks and he can give you feedback.
Do you know Tim's teaching hours?
I've got his schedule here. Hang on a minute. I'll put it on the screen there. Hang on a second.
That'd be good.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
It actually goes on a bit until till 4:45, basically.
Okay, maybe we can sort something out for. I'm happy to do either Monday or Thursday. Yeah, I can do.
Okay. Well, I'll tell Tim that, you know, you'll coordinate with him, and if we go for the Latino option, then there's one caveat which I didn't mention to you. I wouldn't like to get them together just for 50 minutes, because these are people who come from all over the city to be your student.
I see.
So if you did that, I'd have to ask you to teach a couple of hours.
I don't mind.
Okay, great. So the first hour would be kind of a more relaxed hour, so you could also get a feel for them.
Yeah,
exactly. And then the second hour would be observed, and then they get a bit more, and they come back then because they get a longer lesson.
What sort of level?
They're usually it's one of these strange kind of subcultures of Abu Dhabi that we come across. These are all Colombians or mostly Colombians who work for Black Hawk helicopters. And the men have all got, and they are exclusively men, the men have all got intermediate English, and the wives are nearly exclusively beginners. So the wives kind of, you know, will come along if it's free. They'll come along, and, you know, it's an excuse for them to get together, and they'll have coffee afterwards. And so they tend to be beginners. They tend to be really nice.
What I'm thinking is I prefer to teach, you know, those people 3 hours of English than teaching Emirati, you know, English for 10 minutes. Probably I mean, you know, the stress of teaching Emirati is just.
I know our context can be challenging. Yeah.
I mean, and it's a new thing for me, so I would see how, you know.
I'll bear that in mind. I'm just going to stop the share, and I'm going to send the email now, and then that's this section of the session over. Thanks for bearing with me, and I'm looking forward in about 2 minutes to writing down all the answers to those questions, because you've just checked them all out in the handbook. So I'm just going to write that email, and then we'll go on with the next part of the session. Okay, then let's go on to the next part of the session today. I hope you've all had a chance to look at the blog post. I think the approach that we'll take, this is actually new for us. I've done Zoom deltas. This is my third delta on Zoom, so that's not so new. But what I'm going to try and do, and I think Tim as well, is we're going to try and flip things a little bit more, because in the past things have turned a little bit too lecture-like for my liking. So I am going to do my very best to stay at least one session in advance and to post things like this for you to get to grips with before the session itself. So I did it just a couple of days in advance today for this session. I hope to be a bit more ahead of the game for the next session. So the more you get the chance to have a look at the content before the session, then the more successful it will be. Thanks to Ambreen, who posted a couple of answers and additional questions, and Monica for answering. Let's go through all of these. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15. We've got 16 questions here, and I would like to split these into 3. So that will be 6 for Ambreen, because she already answered 3 anyway, and then 5 for Yonja and 5 for Monica. That's the order that you're on my screen. I'd like you to answer those questions by referencing the handbook. And when you've answered them, I'm then going to ask you to check another person's answers. Okay, so let's just concept check that. I want you to hold up your fingers, please, Ambreen, and tell me how many of these questions are you going to research in the handbook now? Hold up your fingers. How many? Just hold them up in front of the screen. How many? You don't know. Right, I'll say that again. She's saying she's muted, but that's okay. It's probably for the best. Let's see if Yonja was listening. Yonja, how many?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I answered all, actually. It is ready with me.
Oh, wow, look at the start.
That's why I cannot tell you through my finger.
And Breen gets to relax then, because she's already answered them all.
Yeah.
That's what you call flipping the classroom. I'll tell you what we'll do then. I mean, really, this session is as much about familiarizing yourself with the handbook as it is about answering the questions. And the reason that we dedicate a session to this is because if people really religiously followed the handbook, that would improve their chances of a successful outcome 100%. The people that do well on Delta Module 2 are the ones that really, really stick to the handbook. And those who have issues are people who don't stick to the handbook. So I'm going to still ask, I'm going to ask you to make everybody a cup of tea, please, Ambreen. I have milk and 2 sugars. And while you're doing that, I'm going to ask Yonja to do from question, maybe just 3 questions. Why not from the last 3, Yonja? How many stages, how many parts, and what does part B? And Monica do, what does part A, what does PDA stand for, and who do you observe as part of your PDA? Why don't you research them? So don't do the 5, you just research them, and then tell Ambreen, and then Ambreen will tell us the answers to the others and tell us if we're right or wrong. How does that sound?
So, sorry, are we just saying them or writing them?
What do you think?
I actually wrote a couple of them. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, I think I answered 3 or 4.
Okay.
And I must have missed the bottom part. I could have I could have written.
Keep
both.
going.
Oh, here.
So Ambreen answered my questions because I wrote. You see, this is.
Here you are. Yeah.
I posted 2 comments. So the first one was an answer to Ambreen, and this one is 1, 2, 3, 4 answers.
Okay. I mean,
With my extra
if
question.
we save time and you've done it, great. Did you have a look as well, Yonja, or not?
Yeah, I did. But I must have missed the bottom part where I had to enter the answers. So.
No, don't worry. And if everybody's had a look, let's just go through them. So let's see what we can memorize. I probably can't answer all of these from memory. Let's see if you can. Most of them, I think I can. How many assignments are there overall?
Right.
How many of them are assessed externally, Ambreen?
Just one.
Just one is assessed externally.
Yep.
So there will be one diagnostic, which we'll do in October. And then there will be 3 internal observations. So that will either be 2 and 1, 2 with me and 1 with Tim, or vice versa. And then there'll be an external observation. The external observation we will aim to do in May. If you want to do it a bit earlier, that's fine as well. But we'll try and get for May, and then you can enter and get your Module 2 awarded by the end of May, beginning of June. Monica, how many parts are there in the PDA?
2, I believe.
Okay, what are they?
It's the reflection and then the experimental stuff. Lesson that you want to get your hands on.
I like the description. Stuff. When I did the Delta in 2001, I think, that it was just experimental, and then I have to say, I think they improved it with the practice, reflection, and action, I think is the acronym part, and so that is an improvement, but it does mean we need to be a little bit more organised. Yonja, what's a skills assignment?
Background essay, including research into and analysis of a selected aspect of language skills, considerations of teaching, learning, issues, and suggestions for teaching.
Okay, so when we do a skills assignment, what does it perhaps before that, how many skills and how many systems do we do? Anybody know?
2. Productive and receptive skill.
Yeah.
Productive and a receptive, yes.
Yeah.
And what about for systems? What do we choose from with systems?
System. And systems got grammar,
Yes.
lexis, phonology, and discourse.
Great. So those are the options there. So what each of those, as you said, there's a background assignment. As well as the background assignment, Monica, tell me what other elements you find in those assignments.
Could I have Ambreen mute because there's some background noise?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, do remember to mute when you're not speaking.
Sorry. The background essay.
Yeah, there's the background essay. And what else is there apart? When you do an assignment, Is it just
Yeah.
a background essay, or are there other parts as well?
No, then you have to prepare a lesson and have it observed based on the background essay.
Right.
So if it's like a research into listening, you then give a listening lesson, and a lesson plan, and the how all of your research was tied into your lesson. You know, keeping in mind those findings you found in your research.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And is there anything that you do after you've executed the lesson?
I think you'll get some feedback because I think you would have a meeting about, you know, how many stages. Okay, I'm looking at all my notes because I printed out different things.
Amber, what do you think there? Can you tell us what you would do? Monica's right. You've got the background, and then you do a lesson plan. You give the lesson, and you get feedback. What else do you do?
I think so. At the end, like you have to write an evaluation of your performance during your lesson. And I had one question also I wanted to ask regarding this background essay. It means a kind of literature review. Does it mean literature review sort of thing?
Can you answer that, Yonja? You're on mute.
Evaluating yourself. Don't know.
As Ambreen said, is it a literature review? Now, for you to say literature review means that you're coming from an academic background. Now, when we talk about literature reviews, we often talk about when we want to present a paper, or if we're talking about a higher degree. Is this a literature review in that sense? What's your feeling on that, Yonja?
Not sure.
Not sure. Monica?
No, I don't think it's purely. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So the other two, when you're not talking, just get into the habit of muting, please.
Okay. I think it definitely it has a much more practical side to it. It's not purely academic because it's putting it into practice. What does it look like? You know, in a classroom, the methodologies that, you know, taking into consideration time management, very practical kind of issues that a literature review might not explore. So, you know, how to keep students engaged, how to get it to them to apply it, how can you analyze if it's been effective or not, checking for understanding. So different, you know, keeping in mind a teacher's job in the whole picture and how it would play out in real time in a lesson, not just theory based.
Okay, I'm gonna pick up on that point and the original question. I don't think it is a literature review in the way that we might understand an academic literature review. I think Monica's correct when she says that. But I do think it is, to an extent, you should show an awareness of the issues surrounding any particular point that you're exploring. Let me try and illustrate with an example. Let's say, for example, you are doing a systems assignment on the present simple. The first problem that you've got is defining your scope. And where people come unstuck is having too wide a scope. So they will generally say, discuss the present simple before going on to describe difficulties students have with the present simple. I mean, the kind of practical aspects that Monica touched on, you know, difficulties people have with the present simple, approaches to teaching the present simple. Before they do that, they'll describe the present simple. Now, if you do that, that would be much, much too wide. So really the secret is it's less a literature review of a particular area, and it's more a selection of literature surrounding a specific point, which could be part of a wider area. So in the case of the present simple, you would do, I don't know, question forms in action verbs in the present simple, relating to hobbies. So it would be that specific. And then you don't fall into the trap of trying to describe everything about the present simple. What you instead do is you focus on, you know, meaning, form, pronunciation, appropriacy of, you know, that one specific aspect. In the case of a skills lesson, let's say you're doing, you know, speaking, you know, you wouldn't do a literature review of fluency. You would do comments pertaining to, I don't know, the teaching of lexical chunks as an aid to fluency for part 2 of the IELTS speaking test. It would be that specific. So when you discussed speaking, it would just be a discussion of how lexical chunks can aid fluency of a particular topic. So I think you know, I know that you've got an academic background, and I think actually we've had some really high-flying academics do the Delta over the years, and one of the first challenges for that kind of profile is to sort of almost put the academic stuff almost to one side and be much more focused on what happens in the classroom, while at the same time still retaining that academic eye for detail and still being able to, you know, to discuss the aspects that are relevant. So I know that's not a particularly straight answer, but I think when you look at some model assignments, which we'll send you soon, it will start to make a bit more sense. Okay, my voice is going, so I want, Monica, can you be the teacher, please? I think we got as far as, did we answer what does a systems assignment mean? Are we happy with that? Did we kind of answer it or not?
Yeah. Well, we said, I think that Yanja said that she was saying systems was grammar, lexis, phonology, and or discourse, and that would be the background essay plus the observed lesson, and it's the same pretty much with the other thing with the skills assignment, except the areas are listening, speaking, reading, or writing. And you'd need a background essay exploring one of those areas as well as the methodologies, materials. What else? Techniques that you would use in that chosen area. Of course, being very specific, as you mentioned, not just saying, okay, I'm going to talk about listening. An example, better example would be listening for specific details on part 1 of the PET exam, or you know how to strategies for before listening, what you should, all the steps you should take before you actually listen to the test, or you know, something more specific in one of those areas in your assignment. So yeah, I mean, there is the academic part, but it doesn't have to be as big as a literature review. Yeah. Was there another question from these bullet points I should address?
Why don't you go through and see what you can get for the next 3 or 4. So you be the teacher, and when you've done them, perhaps we'll go on and you nominate the next teacher for the next 3 or 4, and then the last teacher can do the last 3 or 4, and I'll just jump in if there are any questions or if there's anything I feel that needs to be added.
Okay. Well, the grades that can be awarded are pass with distinction, pass with merit, a pass, or a fail. And
So
I think,
I'm going to interrupt you. Don't
Yeah.
forget, I'd like you to do the teacher role. So
what's that?
I'd like you to do the teacher's role. So think about what that means rather than giving you.
Oh,
So
okay, I got to find my,
nominate, discuss, be the teacher rather than the information giver.
okay. Well, if you want to pass with a distinction, there are specific requirements that you must fulfill, and they have to be, evidenced. You cannot just have, the teacher likes you and has given you this distinction. I think there's a large body of work that has to be produced and probably given to Cambridge to be awarded with such a high distinction. You will get a distinction from the internal coursework. So everything that's assessed internally will be given from CERT, and you have to have a minimum of a pass. I'm just reading here, sorry. You have to have a minimum of a pass in the externally assessed background essay. So the assessor who is not part of the program that we haven't met before has to come in and at least pass you in your background essay for one of your assignments, for the externally assessed assignment. And you actually have to get an extinction for the lesson. So the background essay doesn't have to be as good as your lesson. Your lesson has to be stellar. Meaning that you've probably met all of your objectives, you had great classroom management, like you got all the boxes ticked in your lesson plan or your lesson observation. I don't know what their assessment criteria looks like yet. I should maybe find it somewhere, but probably very similar to what we've seen in our own past experience.
Let me just interrupt you for a second there. Has anybody checked out the link that I sent for the diagnostic criteria mark sheet? Has anybody checked that out?
I didn't. Sorry.
So let me just share that with everybody. This is on the blog post.
I have checked that diagnostic sheet.
Yeah. And this will give you an idea of essentially what is expected. So it looks a bit like this. Hang on a minute. Where is it? Zoom session 1, diagnostic. Okay, so here it is. And as you scroll down, you can see this is your lesson plan. So obviously you'll also have this for your background assignment. And you can see how many criteria are there. And basically what happens is with all of the assignments, whether it's the diagnostic or not, as we go down, if you've got 1, certainly 2 of these not met, you would fail the assignment. But there's obviously a lot of scope with the partially met. So you tend to get a mixture of mets and partially mets. And, anybody who was going to be awarded a distinction would need to be almost exclusively here. And again, you can see this is identical to the form that the external examiner will use. And you can see some of these criteria are very challenging criteria. To say that that's fully met is actually asking quite a lot. So you can click on this link whenever you want and you know, the more familiar you are with these criteria, the more likely you are to address them in your planning and in your execution. So notice this one, it's particularly challenging. Sensitivity to learners' needs and backgrounds, level and context. So it's really demonstrating that you know who the students are as individuals, which can be very difficult. And providing equal opportunities for participation. So again, it's proving that even the weaker or the quieter students have this opportunity to participate as well. This is another challenging one. This idea that you build into your lesson plan opportunities for students to respond to what you're teaching, and then for you to then respond to them in a meaningful way. And that's when, you know, students will throw you the unexpected questions and you need to be able to deal with them. Here you've got your own use of language. So again, that's, you know, especially with lower levels, this set of criteria can be problematic. Procedures and techniques. This is your sort of methodology section. This is one of the main criteria. This is one that you find yourself looking at again and again when you're observing. Classroom management. This one here is often quite problematic. And you'll find that, for example, people don't have enough variety of interaction pattern. So again, that tends to be quite challenging to get them met. And you'll often find that's partially met. You know, you would feel that there's not enough variety. There's too much teacher talk. And then an overall comment. So you can see how detailed the criteria are. And I do really encourage you to really sit down and put yourselves in the shoes of the tutor who has to sit and make those decisions about which of the criteria are met, partially met, or not met. Okay, carry on, please, Monica. And again, don't forget, I'd like you to be the teacher. So, you know, I'd like to bring in the others as well, maybe deal with the next couple of points before you hand over to the next person.
Okay. Well, I'll try to be more engaging as a teacher and get other people to give their, you know, their opinions about things. I know that I need to address the next few points, but I just thought, because I was supposed to present part or stage 2 of the PDA, I know maybe I'm jumping, but I thought a nice interactive question would be to ask the other students what they thought was one of their weaknesses as an example. And I just thought I'd like to ask that right now, because of course that's number 1 on my priority list, is to tackle those weaknesses. Do you have any ideas what you'd like to work on?
Can I, sorry to be the teacher again, well actually, can I answer a weakness? Can I start with my own weaknesses?
Yeah.
My biggest weakness is organisation, which is why I started working on the blog, because it helps me to get more structure. I'm one of those teachers that ends up talking about bananas and watermelons when I planned a lesson on apples and grapes. So that's my biggest problem, and I've always fought with it. And my second biggest problem, I've got the most atrocious board work in the history of teaching. So that's another reason why I virtually never pick up a board pen. If I want to write anything, I'll write it up on a PowerPoint slide as I'm teaching rather than try and write it because my writing is hideous. So organisation and board work for me.
Okay. Okay, what about Amberine? What do you feel is one of your weaknesses?
There are so many. Time management. Usually my plans are over ambitious. Like in a way it is good, like sometimes, like if you sometimes you finish like on time, and then I mean you have more time so that you can add extra activities, but sometimes it happens that like I run short of time, and like then like and the next teacher is is waiting outside, and it's so embarrassing for him and for me also. So that is one thing. And the other thing is TTT, teachers talking time, because like as a learner, I have the habit of learning through explanation and lecturing, and that is somewhere is in the background of my mind. And sometimes I feel like that I try, like I explain things like which becomes sometimes boring for students, instead of giving them some tasks so that they could find out things, sort out things themselves. And I try to explain them, and I feel that it is like lengthy explanations that they are boring for students. And what else? I think so right now this is in my mind.
Yeah, those are definitely, I think, common for a lot of people. Okay, Yonga, what do you feel is something you'd like to work on?
Managing students. Usually, I've only worked in this country, and mainly with Emirati students, and they can be very demanding and speak at the same time. So sometimes I end up, while I'm giving feedback to the students, and the other one comes and just demands on, like, please see me too. And during a conversation, I might end up looking at like, oh my God, which one am I going to listen now? And it gets a bit, I feel bad because I want to obviously give feedback to the student, but also I don't want to, miss the other one. But it gets difficult and complicated, and I just want to learn how to deal with that. Sometimes it's just in a difficult situation like that. Mm-hmm. And
I think, yeah.
As that you said, teacher talk is obviously very common. Yeah. Time management is also.
Yeah.
But I think I can do those things, and they're not that as difficult as managing students. I don't know.
I'm very sorry. I have housekeeping. You're not allowed to bother me right now. Go ask your father. In the bag.
Dad doesn't know where anything is. That's the problem. I'm not. Just tell her where it is.
It's in the bag with all the other medicine in the kitchen. Okay, then no need for it. Okay, ask the maid. I just got a maid, actually. I haven't had one for 4 years, so I feel kind of snobby saying that. I had to clarify. Sorry. This whole format's very new for me with having Zoom meetings, and I've got to lay down the law before the next meeting with the kids interrupting. But I would say, I'm sure I know I have a lot of weaknesses. One of them being I don't think I have enough TESOL background. My master's is in teaching. So I've got a lot of methodologies. I'm pretty, I think, dynamic. But when it comes right down to certain linguistic knowledge, theoretical knowledge, I don't have it. And that's the whole reason I'm trying to become legit and get a Delta. So I can say I belong in this field. I mean, I've been teaching for so long. I have had no major issues or anything. But I know that when I first started out, I would have near panic attacks because I wouldn't prepare very well, and then I'd just open up my book and it said, now talk about the present perfect. I remember one time and I had no idea what it was. And I thought, I had assumed just because I'm a native speaker, I know what everything is. I didn't even know we had a present perfect. And so I know that there are still a lot of holes in my knowledge. I'm always afraid that I might stumble upon something like that. But I have realized how very, very complex English is. Even if you do know everything, there's an exception to almost every rule. So I don't feel as bad about it. The other thing is I'm very lenient in the class. I don't think I have what it requires in this country, this kind of, you sometimes need this beautiful, perfect mixture of this militant, authoritative figure, as well as being super sensitive and knowing, having so much tact and knowing exactly when to allow certain behaviors. It's a perfect balance that it's really hard to get. As do I say Yanga or Yanja? Yeah. Wait, how do I pronounce your name?
Yonja.
Yanja, sorry. As you mentioned, it's really challenging to teach Emiratis. I mean, the good thing is they all know Arabic, and it's not different languages. But wow, there's just no words. So it's given me stomach pains. I think I've developed IBS, just from my students. I'm a nervous wreck at times. I try to, put a mask on, but it's so stressful. I got to figure out how to release that stress in a tactful way. I don't scream very much, but I'm just saying in general, it's really challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've just shared something that the Delta doesn't really address, how to deal with our beloved students. I mean, just as an aside, as a sort of a human aside, this is certainly something we can share. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's that mixture of toughness and love that Emirati students need. I remember recently I had a student upset with me because I'd written in her blog, try and read your work more carefully, and then you won't make so many silly little mistakes. And she wrote to me, "Why you call me stupid?" And she was like, oh, for God's sake, give me a break. And then I realized that her interpretation of, it was this sort of mixture of cultural and linguistic misinterpretation of me saying silly little mistake. And then, and then you'll find students who, I'm in week 6 of the course, and I've got a group of male students in Medina Zayed, and of the 10 students, 2 of them have done something. The rest have done nothing, and it's week 6. Absolutely nothing. So again, somehow, I've got to come down hard on those guys, and it is extremely challenging. I'd also like to address another point that Monica made, which, again, this is going off plan a little bit, but I think it's really important that you realise this right at the beginning of Delta. The best teachers aren't those with the most linguistic knowledge. The best teachers are those who are able to allow students to reflect on their own language and notice the gap between their language and where they want to be with their language. And that's what you're looking for. The non-native speaker teachers often have a much greater knowledge of language and linguistics than native speaker teachers do. And that can be an advantage. It can also be a disadvantage, I think, if you hide behind rules. I think that the ideal teacher is the teacher who knows the rules, or I don't even like to use the word rules because it's misleading, who can describe language, because that's what it is. It's describing when we use the present perfect. rather than rules. Because don't forget, games have rules. Somebody sat down and invented the rules for football and said, you can't kick the ball offside, or you can't touch the ball with your hands. They are rules. We don't have that in English. What we have is how language has developed with a lack of rules, how language has developed over the years and is used in different contexts. So I think that a good teacher is a teacher who can describe language and who can allow students to look at the gap between where they are at the moment and where they want to be. So don't worry in terms of, you know, you're not expected to have an encyclopedic knowledge of grammar. What you are expected to do is to research the area you're going to teach and be comfortable with it. And then when language questions come up, you should be sufficiently competent to be able to talk about and investigate language with the students, rather than say, this is the answer. So if a student says, as I remember one of my students did in 1994 when I started teaching, he said, teacher, what's the difference between the present perfect and the past simple? And I've been teaching about 2 weeks. So I said to him, there's no difference, they're the same. And then about, I don't know, a couple of months later, the director of studies called me in and said, you know, in the interview when you said you were an experienced teacher, is that really true? And I said, well, I am now because I've been teaching for a couple of months. And she said, you're not teaching here anymore, you're fired. So that was my first teaching job. But I'd learned enough grammar by then to get onto the next language school. So yeah, the good language teacher can say, do you know what? I'm not sure I do know the difference between the present perfect and the past simple. Let's write down a couple of sentences and let's think about them. And oh yeah, look, this present perfect somehow, you know, it's some kind of past action. Look, you know, I've been to Sri Lanka, but I'm not saying when it happened. So why am I saying I've been to Sri Lanka? Well, I'm saying it because you're asking for advice and I'm in a position to give that advice. So it's something that happened in the past, but it's relevant to what's going on now. So it's not your ability to parrot fashion a rule. It's your ability to sit and think about a sentence and think, well, why is that like that? And what does that tell us? And why is I've been to Sri Lanka different to I went to Sri Lanka? You know, and hopefully that's something you develop during the course. Okay, thanks, Monica. That was great. I don't know if you want me to address your weaknesses or your perceived weaknesses, Ambreen and Yonja as well. I would say that for time management, which I think is something that Ambreen brought up, I would really super mega stress 2 things. The first thing is get your lesson plan in way in advance. The number of times teachers hand in a lesson plan 2 days before. I've got a full teaching load. I don't have time to go through it carefully. I give it I have a look because you've only handed it in 2 days before. I'm sitting there in the lesson and I'm going, if I'd have seen that a week ago, I'd have told her not to do it that way. I'd have told her to do it that way and it would have saved loads of time and So get the plan in early. That's the first really strong piece of advice. The second really strong piece of advice, get your maid and teach the lesson to her the night before. Get the cleaners outside and teach them the lesson the night before. Get your neighbours, get your husband, get your dog, get a football, get something and teach the lesson the night before. Run through the whole lesson because I can guarantee that you will see things that you haven't realised when you wrote down the lesson. Problems will arise, questions will arise that you know you'll have to address. And if you do those 2 things, you have just increased your chances of a successful lesson by at least 30%. And as I say, Yonja's point about classroom management, I mean, you know, they are a particular group of students. I mean, the only little piece of advice I can give you is you know, and I just ignore. If somebody interrupts me, I just do that and continue speaking to whoever I'm addressing, and that's the best I suggest. And a couple of times, you know, I've stopped and said, seriously, are you seriously saying why you mark me absent, teacher, when I'm in the middle of the best explanation of the difference between the present perfect and the past simple in the history of mankind, and you put your hand up, and when I say, yes, Mohammed, what's the question? You say, why you mark me absent, teacher? And then hopefully, if I just do that once or twice, they stop doing it, but they usually don't. Okie dokie, let's move on. Let's have a change of teacher. Yonja, you can be the teacher. Now, I'm a bit lost. Can anybody tell me where we're supposed to be now? Because I'm lost.
I think I really only taught about the pass with distinction, and then I wanted to ask about the weaknesses, so I didn't get through very many bullet points.
Okay, I mean, you know, again, one of the things is, you know, knowing when to move on and getting that balance right between following the plan and doing what's in front of you. It's 7:25. We need to finish at 9. I do really want to do the PDA today, so I think we'll move on, and we'll have Yonja choose one of the questions that we haven't addressed and address it as the teacher.
How many words is each background assignment? Amri?
Yeah, this is 2,000 to 2,500 words.
Okay. And what is the order of assignments throughout the course? And is this fixed?
PDA is set at the beginning of the course and completed during the course. The experimental practice part may be set at any time during the course. System and skills assignments are set in any order throughout the course, so I believe they are not fixed.
What does a systems background essay include?
It includes research into the analysis of a selected aspect of a language system, consideration of teaching or learning issues, and suggestions for teaching.
And what does a skills background essay?
Same as above, but like instead of, we should say that like it includes research into an analysis of a selected aspect of a language skill instead of system. Otherwise, it's the same thing as. There's the differences of just the language system and language skill.
Okay. What do you observe as part of your PDA?
Some teachers, maybe like, I don't know, maybe you.
Others, yeah.
Let me just jump in there. Thanks, you zipped through a few of the bullet points there in quick, smart fashion. Let me just address this issue of experiencing, observing experienced teachers. This is difficult for some people. Yonja, this is going to be a challenge for you. Do you have any friends at CERT still?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think you sooner rather than later think about some people at CERT that you could observe. It's something like 9 hours of observation. I can't remember. It's in the handbook. I've got a terrible memory for numbers and stuff, so I could be completely wrong, but it's something like that. So you need to think about contacting those people. Monica, it should be fairly simple for you. Is Joe your supervisor?
Yes, she is.
Yeah. If she needs any clarification or whatever, I mean, yeah, just ask her to get in touch with me. But essentially, it could also be part of your EPMS, what do you call it in the women's college? Can't remember your
PEP?
your PEP, exactly. You know, you can say, well, you know, I'd like to do some observations, and if you've got a list of foundations teachers, send it to me, because there's a couple that I'd quite like you to observe. If I've still got any friends in left in foundations, most of the people I know have left. But if there is a list, send it, because I've got a few that I would say, like, I know this person would be an interesting person to observe, etc.
Okay, I'll just tell you who I will send you a list of all of the foundation's faculty too.
Oh, that'd be great. And Breen, again, I'm guessing that it shouldn't be too difficult for you because of where you are. It shouldn't be too difficult to carry out observations. Is that correct?
I have a question. Do we need to record the lesson also that we are going to observe?
There are some observation tasks that will give to you, and you basically do an observation task and you reflect on it, and that's it. I mean, you could theoretically, you could not actually do it, but I mean, you know, it's obviously part of the course, and it is really beneficial. So, if anybody, there's no need to record it now. If anybody for any reason can't observe, you know, you're always free to observe one of my lessons. Unfortunately, I don't teach in Abu Dhabi, and certainly from Sharjah it would be about a 5-hour drive to where I teach, so that would be quite difficult. I'd have to check with the handbook. If someone wants to check in the handbook, we might be able to get away with a couple of hours of recorded lessons. So I do have a couple of lessons I've given on YouTube, which are uploaded onto YouTube, so we get away with observing. But start with the live observations, and you know, I'll post something on the blog soon about those with the tasks.
Okay.
Okay, Ambreen, you be the teacher and finish off this section of the session for us, please, with a couple more points, or one. Let's see how long it takes.
Where we were. Yeah. What does PDA stand for? The easy one, the easiest one. This is the question. What does PDA stand for? Yes, Yonja?
Professional development assignment.
Yeah. And what does part A of PDA involve?
Reflection and action is a reflective assignment which candidates work on at different stages of the course. And then there's experimental practice, and it's an investigation of an area of practice which is new for the individual teacher.
Yeah, you answered next question also, because next question was, what does part B of the PDA involve? That is experimental practice. Okay. Yeah. How many parts are marked in each assignment? Even this question was confusing for me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was confused. Like 2 will be graded. I don't know. I would ask John, like, is it correct? Like 2 will be graded, 1 for background essay and 2nd for lesson. So how many parts are marked in each assignment? It means like 2 parts or 3 parts.
Oh, Johnson.
Mute.
Oh no.
John, please unmute. We can't hear you. You know, the worst thing is when you're going on for about 10 minutes and then you realise you're on mute. Oh dear. And ironically, when my wife generally says mute, but there you go. So, I think it was a badly phrased question, so I think I'll change it. But essentially, what I'm referring to there is in the PDA, the diagnostic itself is not marked in the sense that you get feedback but what you don't get is anything like a grade. Okay, so all you need to be concerned about in the PDA is the level of reflection rather than giving a good lesson. So it's really, you know, the diagnostic observation and your reflection should be the two tools that allow you to make the action plan. So, I mean, that's what I was referring to there, but it's just not particularly well phrased question. So you'll have to excuse that one. Okay. Do you want to discuss any more questions, Ambreen?
One is left, and that is how many stages are there in the PDA Part A, and that is, you know, it is given, you know, at the bottom of that question, you have written like 4 stages are there. So it was answered there already.
Yeah, I was thinking that one, if they'll read on, and I was hoping that you'd answer it before you read on and saw the answer.
So that's the last question.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think I'm going to stand up for a couple of minutes. Let's just take, we're halfway through. Let's just take a 5-minute break, go and tell the kids to brush their teeth. And yeah, have a stretch. I'm going to get a cup of coffee, and I'll see you back for the second part in 5 minutes. Let's just wait to see if Anja and Monica make it back. Are you okay working this way, Ambreen? Is it working okay for you?
Sorry?
Is it working okay for you on Zoom?
Yeah. Actually, you know, I'm not an e-person, you could say, and this was really a nightmare for me to sit like this and like, you know, and I was thinking that I would prefer to come to Abu Dhabi on the way, yeah, instead of, because this is the first time. Anyways, it's good in a way that I'm learning. I mean, as you know, that this is the world of technology now, age of technology, so we should be accustomed of these types of things also. So in that way, it's okay, but I feel more comfortable in a real classroom.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. I think it's much easier, and that, you know, the relationship you develop with the students is much better. But I mean, this is, you know, the good thing about this is it allows us to have, you know, a group of students from everywhere, from Ras Al Khaimah to Ruwais. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm in Ruwais tonight, so you know, I'm 500 kilometers away. Hopefully, you'll get used to it. It takes a while.
May I ask a question?
Please do.
How did you know that I wasn't working?
Tim told me.
Tim said. Okay.
He interviewed you, right? I didn't interview you. Or do you know him?
I know him, yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's why.
He's my Delta teacher.
Oh, right. Yeah. So you know what to expect from Tim then?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Very high standards.
Yeah, we're a good cop, bad cop routine.
Yeah, tough.
Well, I think it's a good combination. Okay, so you can come and cry to me when he shouts at everybody.
Thank you.
You can warn the others what he's like. He's a nice guy deep down.
He is nice,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's quite tough.
Yeah. Okay, let's carry on. Monica may be lost in action with the kids. So I think we'll just press on.
I have a question.
Please do.
Yeah. For experimental practice, like what I read from the Delta book, how we will choose those areas that we don't know already? Like, because...
Yeah, good question, isn't it? How do you know what you don't know?
Yeah, exactly. Who will tell us that?
I mean, let me share with you how I chose my experimental practice. Hi, Monica. We're just talking about how to choose your focus for an experimental practice. And I actually had a session from a guy called Nick Bilbrough, who I have cited on the Delta page of my blog. And he ran a session on using drama in the classroom. And I liked the session, and that's why I chose that as an experimental. It was this thing called process drama, and I'd never come across it before. And I immediately thought this would make a great experimental practice. The other experimental practice I considered was when I picked up a journal one day and I read The Unbearable Lightness of Dogma, I think the article's called, by Scott Thornbury. And it really resonated with me, the methodology that he was discussing. And I thought, well, that's a great idea for an experimental practice too. So I think the experimental practice almost finds you. I think that you just need to be open to hearing things on social media, hearing about things in journals, in conferences, and just sort of, you know, over the next 2 or 3 months, thinking to yourself, okay, what would be a new area for me? And you, I mean, you already said I don't like using technology. So as soon as I hear that, I think, okay, well, Ambrine's experimentals should be using teleconference, you know. And it's almost that simple. It's almost, what don't I like, or what don't I know very much about? I mean, Monica's already said that she's not confident about linguistics, so her experimental should be something related to linguistics. You know, should be some, you know, real sort of pure grammar thing, or, you know, some way of exploring grammar that she's never thought of before. You know, and Yonja's already said that she doesn't like some aspects of classroom management. So again, I'm already thinking, okay, well, a good experimental for her would be, you know, alternative classroom management techniques, using games in the lesson, you know, as a means of control or engagement or something like that, you know. So it's kind of you seeing what comes up, seeing what you observe, seeing what you, as I say, seeing what you see on social media, and if you're really stuck for something, I'll help to brainstorm ideas with you. The only other thing I would say is, do subscribe to some of the Facebook pages that are out there. You know, the Delta Facebook page, these kinds of things. Just because people put, you know, little bits of information on there, and you think, oh, that's a pretty good idea. Yeah, I could do that. You know, and you'll see the way other people are working in different Delta courses around the world, and you know. That can spark things, you know. Okay. Any other questions before we move on? I mean, really today is as much as anything else is about questions. So I mean, I'll always give them priority. Today really is just this gentle introduction to the course, gentle introduction to working with Zoom, and hopefully leaving you with things to go away and start working on over the next week, before you have a more sort of intensive input session with Tim next week. So please do interrupt whenever you have a question. Yes, Ambrine.
This is just my feeling after reading it, like, and please tell me am I right or not, that I got an impression that it's a kind of network of assignments, which is like, I think so, will cover the whole semester, and like one overlapping other, something like that. Or when we will finish one and then the other assignment will start, that kind of thing is there, or they are going to overlap into each other piece. I can't hear you, John.
Doing it again, sorry. I'm just going to get myself, I need a bit of paper to help me think about this one. So we're in October and we finished the course, and let's do this. And give me a second, I think this will make it easier for you. Hang on a minute, I'll just insert new slide, schedule, write it, schedule. Let's do the share screen. I think it's down there actually. So, how do you write this down? I can't do it like that. Sorry, wrong one. Okay. Can everybody see that okay? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay. So it's October, November. This will be saved, but you know, if you want to copy it out in note form, that's okay as well. I think this is the easiest way to do it. December, January, February, March, April, May.
You can't spell.
Oh no, that's another one of my terrible weaknesses. My spelling's awful. Whenever I write anything on the board, which I rarely do, I always say to the students, is that how you spell it? Is that okay? And they look at me like, aren't you supposed to be the teacher? Okay. Right, so October, what are we going to do? Somebody tell me.
Diagnostic.
Thank you, diagnostic.
Mute.
What else are we going to do?
I guess we'd sit down and then start working on our action plan and reflection.
Start part one. Is it part one or part A? Part one of the PDA or part A? Somebody tell me.
It's A. It's part A.
Part A, of course. So that's what we're going to do in October. And then we've got November, December, January. Now we know what we're going to do in May. What are we going to do in May?
External? Oh, okay.
External. So what have we got to do between November, December, January, February, March and April? How many internals have we got to do?
4.
3. Internals. Because we've got the external there already, right? That's your 4. So you've got to do 3 internals. So what's a good way to spread these out, you think?
You can do one maybe towards the end of November.
Next one. Experimental.
April? I don't know. February?
What do we do in April then?
Finish the PDA.
Yeah, make sure that's finished. And then our external. What do we do here?
Christmas.
Happy holiday. Does it have to look like this?
No, but it's nice to have something solid.
What you can all do is email something like this, and you can put dates if you want, to me and Tim, and I will publish them on the blog so everybody can see what you're going to do, so we can name and shame if you haven't done it. Does that sound okay?
I have a question here.
Yes,
not a question, rather a suggestion.
Yeah.
That would it be okay if you set a deadline for the submission of every assignment? It would be easy for me because I am a kind of person who has to, who work under kind of the stress of, okay, this is the deadline, so I have to submit it, so I have to finish it before that time, that kind of thing. So if I know that before time, so it would be like convenient for me.
Okay, so you set your own deadline.
Okay, all right.
Everybody will be different. You set your own deadline.
Okay.
And that deadline will be published on the blog and everybody will be able to see it. So this doesn't have to be this way. Obviously, for example, the experimental, you're not going to think about it, write it, do it, and reflect on it all in February. You're going to perhaps, you know, when you go away for December, it's actually quite nice to be thinking about the experimental, because it's often one of the more fun aspects of the Delta, if there is such a thing. So, you know, it's something you can, in the holidays, you can be, you know, having a look at some wild and wacky theories about, you know, language learning. And then you know, could be forming an idea. And then you could give that idea some shape in January, send it to me the end of January to look at. I could say, looks good. You can go away and teach it and reflect on it in February. You know, same with these assignments. So again, you might start working on this in December, and you might send me, you know, you might send a draft in December, and we'll have a look and send it back and have a discussion, and then you know, you'll be ready to go in January. So it's not really set in stone, but I do think it's up to you to set yourselves a schedule that you can meet. I think setting dates, as Ambereen says, deadlines is a good idea, but you need to do that. But I mean, that's a rough idea of how things will shape out over the year. Any more questions related to that at this stage? Okay. There are no more questions. We'll have a look at a bit. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to ask about the books, like, you know, that we, like useful books and things like that.
Okay, useful books and things like that. That's a good question as well. I'm going to share the useful book list with you. We've had terrible problems in the past with print books because it's difficult to share with each other. So we've been a bit naughty and we've stolen some books which we are giving to you.
Yay!
This is completely against the law and unethical, but we don't care. We're going to do it anyway. Those of you, i.e. Ambereen and Monica, who have access to a good library, and the library at ADWC is good for methodology books, you should be able to supplement these no problem. Yonka, as you don't have access, don't go away and spend a lot of money on buying books. I've got some books here, which if you say to me, oh, I'm looking for something on pronunciation, what have you got? And if what's on this list is not enough for you, well, there's quite a lot here.
May I show you some of the books that I already have?
Yeah, you certainly can, yeah. She sort of disappeared. Did that look weird for you too as well? She's sort of like the Invisible Woman.
She's very fast.
Yeah, it's like you got some like weird sort of like dead fast boots on or something.
Okay, sorry.
Methodology.
It's just here. I've got this one, Reading in a Second Language, Moving from Theory to Practice, William Grabe.
Is that Cambridge, yeah?
And then Reflective Teaching in Second Language Classrooms.
Yeah.
I don't know. Teaching and Researching Writing.
Yeah.
And Teaching and Researching Listening.
Okay.
Any other?
I mean, you know,
on the list.
If I take you through the list, the most important reading is the handbook.
Okay.
But really, I mean, you sort of go more by names, really. I mean, you know, anything with Scott Thornbury is going to work.
Mm.
He's a real guru. I mean, you know, his work on methodology is incredibly insightful. He's a very, very clever man. This pronunciation book isn't the best known one. It's just one that I happen to have as a PDF. I personally do not want to see anybody do a pronunciation lesson as a main focus. I think pronunciation as a main focus is problematic. I think pronunciation should be a sub-focus. I think in a 50-minute class, I wouldn't expect to see exaggerated 10 minutes work on prom, because after that, I think it becomes so much background noise. So I would encourage you to do a main focus pronunciation. Anything, again, Scott Thornbury in grammar, really, really important. Martin Parrott is one of the big names, and of course Swan is a really big name, a more traditional outlook perhaps, but a really big name. I will keep adding to these as I find time. Jack Richards, again, very readable. He's a massive name in TESOL, so that's a safe bet. These, I don't know actually. Again, you know, a lot of these are books that I just managed to steal from other people. Rod Ellis is a big name as well. This is going to be really useful. I think everybody uses this every course. The Error in Arabic Learners, Learner English. That's just a section from the book on Arabic learners. Really, really useful. And then I've got a lot of articles here. And if you are interested in language, and I know that Monica said she was interested in this, I heartily recommend that you start your reading with The English Verb by Michael Lewis. It's a small book that he couldn't get a publisher for because it was so revolutionary that the publishing houses didn't want to touch it because they knew that it basically made all of their previous work on grammar redundant. And so nobody wanted to publish it. He published it with a really small publishing house in Brighton, and it's still quite revolutionary today, even though a lot of what he says has been picked up by a number of the major practitioners. So that's really important. If you're interested in, again, in teaching language, these books here, Consciousness Raising, Focus on Form, Focus on Forms, Reactive Focus on Form, that's all grammar stuff as well. Really important stuff there. For experimentals, teaching grammar through community issues can be interesting. I did an MSc thesis on this. I taught a group of students malaria prevention in Central Africa, and taught them the present simple through the back door as well, and some other stuff. So it's all about teaching grammar through malaria prevention. Anyway, that's kind of one of the texts that goes with that. If you're not aware of corpus linguistics, I suggest you get aware. Really, really important. Michael Long is a very well-known book. Paul Nation is probably the name in learning vocabulary, along with Jan McCartan and John McCarthy. These are really, really big names. And then I think maybe that's the Brown book that you've got there, Yonja. And then Rod Ellis again, Jeremy Harmer, Jack Richards. That's for experimental stuff. The Dogme. Some stuff on needs analysis. Again, that will come in for the background assignment. And then second language acquisition, how we learn languages. And again, these might not be things that you would rely on heavily, but again, you might use them to help support why you're taking particular approaches. And I'd really recommend that you take a look at these videos as well. Yes, Ambry?
I watched this one, CLT. It is Irene Schoenberg's. It is excellent, wonderful. You will enjoy it a lot. It is just recommending that because this one I enjoyed a lot. This is wonderful.
I think you know one of the things with Delta that is an issue is that people do look at it as, I need to get the Delta because I want to get the certification. And I think that's really missing a great opportunity to really reflect on your own teaching and to look at different ways of approaching teaching and learning. And I think for me, I started the Delta thinking, I already know how to teach. I know what I'm doing. I'm fine. I've been teaching for 5 or 6 years, and I was confident, and blah blah blah. I know my way around the classroom. And I think partly because of the quality of the tutors, a couple of whom were excellent, and partly because of the course itself, it ended up really transforming the way that I taught, and has stayed with me, ever since. And really made me think long and hard about teaching. So I do want you to take the time to do the reading and reflect on your own beliefs and watch these videos and allow that aspect of Delta to do its job as well. But it's not enough just to come to the class. You do need to take a look at these videos and do the reading as well. And just before we move off this question of reading lists, I'm quite pleased I've got this together. It's the first time I've ever managed it, and it's always been a problem for us. I think this list would be much stronger if we wrote descriptions. So if you watch the video, for example, Ambreen, if you could write a one-line description of what it is that you've watched and email it to me, I'll add it to the list. I just don't have time to go through all of these and describe them. So if you do look at a book and found it useful for something, or you do watch a video, just send me a line or a couple of lines and just say, I looked at the How to Teach Grammar from Scott Thornbury. It was really useful for preparing tenses. It was easily, it was very comprehensive. It explained tense and aspect and, whatever else it did, highly recommended. And then I'll post that next to the book. And then, as we move through the course, people have a better idea of the reading list. Any more questions about that reading list?
I just have a quick one about the background essay.
Yeah.
About how many sources were you looking at that you wanted us to cite for our research?
Yeah, I don't think the handbook doesn't stipulate a certain amount of resources, but I think I did we do a standardization every year, and I try and do the standardization just before I start a course, so I'm sort of fresh, when I start a new course. And one of the comments that came up in the standardization this time was the person had cited maybe 4 or 5 sources, which is fine, but she'd cited Scott Thornbury and Martin Parrott each about 5 times each. And it just gave the impression that her entire essay was based around the work of these 2 writers. So I wouldn't say you should use X amount of sources. I would say there should be evidence that you're not just relying on 1 or 2 people and then throwing in a couple more just to make up the bibliography. There should be the sense that you've understood your topic and you've read widely and you're able to quote widely. So 4 or 5 is fine, but try not to, rely too heavily on one particular source or 2 particular sources. Does that answer your question, or is it too vague?
I guess the research part is, I guess, about it composes half of the essay, right? Like 1,000 words, perhaps.
Yeah, something like that.
So it seems like it might be a little difficult to have a really broad range of sources if you're kind of trying to tackle one specific, very, the scope of your plan is so specific. How can you have so many people talking about some aspect of a skill or or a system and yet keep it under
Well,
1,000 words?
what I'll do, and again, I'll do this as the course develops. I don't want to sort of throw everything on there at the beginning. I'll put in a couple of model background assignments, and that will give you a much better idea of as you read it, you'll think, okay, that feels right. And that will give you a much clearer idea of the number of sources and what the assignment looks like.
Yeah. I guess that research part has probably kind of like the historical aspect and how it's developed, and then what the conflicting ideas or...
Sorry to interrupt. Not so much historical, more, you know, if you say you're looking at phrasal verbs, you would say, okay, these are phrasal verbs, and phrasal verbs are important. You know, these are phrasal verbs according to Doink. Phrasal verbs are important because we use them in these situations, Doink. They're difficult because Doink. And each Doink, you've got some support. You know, you have sort of 4 or 5 subsections in your background, but they're all really focused on the pedagogical aspects of the bit of language that you're teaching. So, you know, phrasal verbs, difficult because of Doink. We describe them as Doink. And, you know, I've chosen this particular group of phrasal verbs because of Doink. And I'm going to approach them, teaching them in this way because of Doink. And, you know, so there's your 4 or 5 resources right there. Any more questions, or should we move on? Yes, Ambria?
This is just a suggestion. Like, this is my wish. Like, I mean, during this semester, on any Saturday or any other day, I mean, arrange or plan our class in Abu Dhabi, and I would like to travel, and it's okay for me, I could come. I mean, just I want to enjoy just one class. I mean, this is just a suggestion, if it is convenient for you. For me, I'm ready to do that.
Okay, I'll give my response to that. I'm ready as well. I've got a CELTA course in Al Ain at the moment. It finishes on the 9th of December. As soon as that finishes, I'm free on Saturdays. I would be delighted, and I think it would be a good idea if, I'll tell you the dates now, in fact. Just let me get the schedule up, which I haven't published, which is another thing I will publish when I've got famous free time. Right, okay. The session, I've actually written the date wrong there. The session, my session would be in December, would be the 5th. But I'm still doing CELTA then. But if everybody is here, I would be perfectly happy to do December the 12th in Abu Dhabi. So that would be speaking skills 1 and error correction. So they're both really nice. It would be a nice one to have as a face-to-face class. How do the rest of you feel about that?
I'm okay with this. It's okay. It's fine for me. You can ask others.
I think we're breaking on the 11th, I believe, for Christmas. Is this for December?
Yeah, HCT, we actually, I wish we did break on the 11th. We actually don't break until the 23rd. But if you're going away then that's, you know, and you can't do it, that's fine. We can have the last session on the 5th. But if you're here, I will be here on the 12th, and I can do it if you'd like a face-to-face session. But if you're not going to be here, then we won't. That's no problem.
For me, I don't have any plans on the 12th, as far as I know.
Well, I tell you what we'll do then. Ambreen, as you're keen on this, why don't you bring this up again? Because we've still got Camilla, who I'm hoping will join us. Please remind me of this in November, and we'll set that up. There's actually a chance. Let me just double check my CELTA schedule.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay, thanks. I'm just going to double check my CELTA timetable and see. Yeah, no, I'm still. Yeah. Actually, yeah. I could do the 5th anyway. The 5th of December I could do in Abu Dhabi. No, sorry. It would be the 12th, the first one I can do. I've got my last face-to-face session in LA on Saturday the 5th. And then again, next semester, certainly at the beginning, I won't have a CELTA. CELTAs generally start around February time. So again, in January, if you wanted to do another Saturday, I'm quite happy to do it.
It's okay. I don't want to bother. Like it's if it is like you can do it conveniently, it's okay. Otherwise,
no. I mean, for years we ran the CELTA the Delta on a Saturday. If you're happy to come to Abu Dhabi, we can use CERT. It's not a problem. I'm quite happy to do it. So no worries. Okay. Any more questions or suggestions? Okay, let's go back here. I'm just going to scroll down. It says, let's look at the PDA in more detail. So, Ambreen, tell us about part. I mean, we've kind of answered this, but just as a, let's get it as fixed in our heads as we can. Ambreen, give us just a sort of 1-minute rundown of part 1, please.
Okay. Diagnostic observation, as its name suggests, I found 3 very positive aspects of this stage. Number 1, no written submission is required. The second is the lesson will not be formally assessed. And the third thing that I like very much is that after the lesson, there will be a feedback session, which will be given to us in the form of oral and written one. And I believe that this feedback will be included in our coursework portfolio also, and which can help us later to compare. I don't know. I think so. We will be allowed to see our portfolio, and we can compare our progress. We can see that what we did in the beginning and what we did at the end. So, and I like this feedback session very much. And when it is not going to be assessed, so it will be a kind of I like fun, and I will enjoy, I believe. And one thing that I was worried about, that was this observation. I remember that, there was a workshop in Ajman University when I was teaching there. It was on teacher's observation. And the first question the presenter asked from the crowd was like, how many of you are afraid of observations? And our head of the department, he raised his not one, both hands like this, and the whole crowd, laughed. So, I mean, this anxiety is there. So I was wondering, how, as it is diagnostic and we are going to be observed. So what about those aspects of anxiety? Because I feel that the lesson which is being observed is not a natural one. There is some anxiety there. Because of that anxiety, I think so we make sometimes, I do stupid and silly things. And so do you think that, I'm confused here that, rather you tell me that how you managed to diagnose, as it is an observed one, and of course it's not a natural. This is my belief that that's not a natural lesson which is being observed by somebody.
Okay, I think you've actually answered the question yourself. I mean, you said it's not natural and nerves are heightened. I mean, we know. We know because we know how it feels to be observed ourselves, because we're observed a lot. And we know because we observe hundreds of teachers. So you already know that. And that's something that gets factored in to the observation. So that's not really a concern. All I would say to you is, it's a bit like, you don't like, I don't know how to use this analogy, you don't like to go and see a doctor, and pull your trousers down in front of a doctor because it's embarrassing. But the honest fact of the matter is, the doctor sees hundreds of patients every week, and it's just another day at the office. And it's a bit like that. You're sort of all there nervous and concerned, but for the observer, it's like, just another day, it's just another observation. I've seen 100 nervous teachers, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And it's just not a big deal. And you sort of automatically go, don't worry, I know you're nervous, da, 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 da. And it's just kind of part of the routine is this whole nervous conversation. So honestly, don't worry about it is all I can say. It's not, there's nothing you can do in a class to be nervous about in front of us, because we've seen it all a million times.
I would like to suggest one thing here, as you have already suggested, that it is really, really very useful to read that report which you have uploaded here for the diagnostic observation. And when I I went through it and I found it's a kind of postmortem report. There are 5, areas like planning and preparation, creating and maintaining an atmosphere conducive to learning, understanding knowledge and explanation of language and language skills, classroom procedures and techniques, and classroom management. And under each and every these aspects, there are further headings are given there in the report. So this is my suggestion, and you have also suggested that this is a very good and useful idea to read it thoroughly and to follow it. I think so that it would be very beneficial for us.
Yeah, agreed 100%. It's really important that you take a look at all of these documents, which kind of we may not have time to get and look at today, but nevertheless, it's really important that you take a look at all of them. I mean, that, I've really sort of, what I've downloaded on that page is everything you need to do a successful PDA. So, okay, Monica, you talked about part 2. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, just to clarify, it's a written assignment, and it's half your prior beliefs, your methodologies, your strengths, weaknesses, your techniques, and then the other half is your action plan for tackling those weaknesses that you identified, you can refer to the diagnostic feedback you were given, because maybe you don't really know yourself. You don't know really what a big, strong weakness is, and maybe the tutor can identify that for you in your diagnostic. And also one thing that I didn't mention was how you plan to gather data to prove that you've actually made improvements. But that's kind of a part of the written assignment. You need to design a method or a document that shows your progress. I didn't really get that. It says select design methods or documents for gathering data that will allow you to focus on your performance in the assessed assignments during the Delta course. That leaves questions in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't worry too much about that. It sounds worse than it is. It's really going to be comments from tutors on your other assessments, it's going to be reflection, and it's going to be reading and then applying that reading to your own performance. So saying, well, you know, Thornbury suggests this type of noticing task, and I tried this, and I observed that this happened. So it's really, you know, you're not expected to go away and carry out any big quantitative research gathering. It's just some qualitative reflection. You can get some feedback from students. You can use your feedback from the tutor. So it's really, that was not as worrisome as it may appear. Okay, anything else you want to say about that? Okay, I'll do stage 3. So stage 3, and I'm basically just taking this from the document, which is in the blog. 750 words maximum. Reflection on development in practice. So what are you doing over the course? What your weaknesses are and how you're going to address them. So you do the first 2 of your skills systems assignments, and then you look at your previous action plan and you make comments. How have you developed since the diagnostic? So this is really sort of a how am I progressing? Where am I at this midway point of the course? And again, you can look at your own reflections. You can look at what you gathered in stage 2. You can look at the feedback from the tutor, more feedback from the learners. If anybody else has observed the lesson, that's another possibility as well. So again, if you have a professional development program in your institution where you have to carry out observations, it's a good idea to invite experienced teachers in to observe you, and you can get their feedback on certain areas as well.
So it sounds to me a lot like your identified weaknesses need to somehow take into consideration weaknesses in the skills and systems that you are researching, not necessarily classroom management or something outside of skills and systems, but something within the scope of the actual, subject you're teaching, not necessarily, because like some of us said, we are worried about anxiety, or we're worried about classroom management, or we're worried about something. That we've got to remember that our assignments and our reflections on the skills and systems assignments are more based on not the soft skills, but the.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think it's a good point. I think that, in the feedback form that you receive from your tutors, or the assessment form that you receive from your tutors, there is some attention paid to classroom management. There's no specific reference to something like anxiety, though. So I think whatever it is that you look at to improve, rather than anxiety, as you say, you wouldn't say, I want to be less anxious. You would say, I want to be more learner-centered. And being less anxious may be part and parcel of that, for example. So I think you're right to identify skills and systems as areas which perhaps would be the easiest to identify and the safest to identify. but I don't think it's exclusively what you can identify. I think, for example, you could move into the areas of things like classroom management. But as you know, at the same time, as you just said yourself, we're here to teach language. And sometimes in the UAE, especially, that kind of focus gets lost. Like in the HCT, sometimes because, as an example, I don't know if it's the same in Sharjah, because of the way Emiratis learn through acquisition rather than learning, we almost like forget that we're teaching English. And the Delta is very much focused on you teaching English. So, I think to be safer, yes, I need to be able to explore grammar more effectively. I need to be able to look at teaching Lexis more in context. I need to be able to provide students with more meaningful speaking practice. And these kinds of things that are very much rooted in the teaching of language. So yeah, I think it's a fair point, but I don't think, if you've got a weakness which is outside of one of those things, yes, you could discuss it in your PDA as well. Don't reject it because it's not language. So again, like a lot of answers in Delta, I can't give a really, really clear answer, definitive answer. It's very much about interpretation and very much about, balancing your own needs and your own reflection with making sure that you meet the parameters of the handbook.
May I just say something?
Yeah.
My experience in this country tells me that sometimes I feel like I don't even know what my strengths and my weaknesses are.
Yeah, I don't even know if I can teach English anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
I know exactly
I
what you
don't
mean.
get the challenge, and a good teacher needs to be challenged all the time. So it's like, hitting you on the face, and so you realize, where things are going wrong, and in terms of teaching language, not in terms of managing a classroom. So that's, for me, that's part of the problem, so anyway, this is just how
that's you kind of strain into almost existential territory there, Yoncha. I don't know what to say really, other than, if you can, if we're lucky, I can get you some motivated students who have got good, language study skills, and it'll be I'd like you to see the other, because the rest of us have all had experience.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, that's good, but it's just teach, like in an ideal classroom you would have, different nationalities, and different nationalities bring different, experiences and things like that. Here I feel like it's just one thing, and you're just, what to expect all the time, and it's not a challenge, but you need a challenge so you know what your strengths and weaknesses are. And yeah, this is how I feel.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. I think that, this is just something that we have to deal with. Again, I did the Delta in that ideal situation that you're describing. I did it in a language school in the UK, and it was all highly motivated adult learners from all around the world. It was a fantastic place to teach. The pay was terrible, so here we are. So I do know what you mean, but that's just something we don't do.
So can you please, after our diagnostic, can you please tell us clearly what we're weak at in one or into skills areas and into systems areas, and we can go straight to it in our assignment?
If you look at that diagnostic sheet, at the end of the diagnostic, you will know whether you have met or not each of those criteria. And that is your basis for where you're going to improve. I can tell you now, probably the top 5 things that I see as areas for improvement. And they are Teacher talk, they are creating the conditions for meaningful practice to take place, i.e. getting students, that is getting students to say hello then. Good boy. Now go to bed, it's late. Bedtime. It's teacher talk, it's creating the conditions for meaningful practice to take place. That means being communicative. That means making students want to talk to each other because they need to talk to each other to do something meaningful, you know, not controlled practice. And that's one of the toughest things to do with any students. With our students who all speak Arabic, even more so. Those are the first two. Next one. Interaction pattern. You know, you get so bored and tired of seeing lessons where it's teacher gives the instructions, students do the activity, students tell the teacher what they found. Teacher does the next activity, students do the activity, and tell the teacher what they found. You see very little variety in that interaction pattern, but there are lots of other ways of doing it. Students read the instructions, do the activity, feedback to each other, teacher observes, comments where necessary. Teacher gives the instructions, students do the activity, students put the answers on the board, or teachers put the answers on the board, and no feedback is given if not needed. So this idea of different ways of managing the activities in terms of the interaction patterns that go on in the classroom, you often see a real lack of variety there. Third point that is often a weakness here, lack of focus on language. Don't forget, even a skills lesson is teaching language. So even if you do skimming and scanning, which are half the lessons you see, you know, it makes you want to scream because you've seen so many. Even when you see one of those lessons, you often think to yourself, where's the language focus? They may have got away talking about skimming and scanning, but have they learned any words? Have they actually learned any language today? So even in a skills lesson, don't forget there needs to be this sub-aim of some kind of, we're language teachers, we're teaching them English. Can you imagine? You know, I can see him, he's behind you. Tell him I said to go to bed. Now he's in trouble. You need 11 hours sleep, your age. I've got one just like you. He won't go to bed either. No iPad tomorrow. I forgot what I was saying there.
I'm really sorry. I think they feel famous because they see themselves and they see like 4 observers.
No,
and
honestly, you don't have to tell me.
Out.
How old is he?
He just turned 6.
I've got a 6-year-old, and that whole narcissism gets worse. I've got a 9-year-old who's even worse. He's obsessed with himself. Anyway, we digress. What were we talking about?
The major points to remember in
I've forgotten.
We were on the lack of focus on language. Even a skimming and scanning lesson should have some words that they learned or something.
So, and again, like if you're doing a Lexis lesson, don't forget that there needs to be, it can't just be learning words, it can't just be language. They need to use that Lexis. So there needs to be that sub-aim, that skills sub-aim. Okay? I said I was going to give you 5. How many is that?
I think it was, I don't know, I thought it was 4, but
4.
You were saying 3.
Jon just says 4 as well. Okay, those are the four that I'm coming off the top of my head. But I mean, those are the ones that really, those are the main ones that, you know, you really see time after time after time. I'm not saying those are going to be the ones that you're going to have. I'm just saying, you know, when you say to me in this context, like, you know, will you tell me what's wrong with my teaching in the diagnostic? I can tell you now the things that I see time after time after time after time, and it's those, you know. Okay, we only got 17 minutes left. So, stage 4, Yonja, please tell us something about stage 4.
This is the part I wasn't very sure, you know, because you've written part. Did you mean stage?
Yeah, I did, Anna, and
I was a bit
exactly
confused.
exactly what I mean about poor organisation. I consider myself, that is like, that's a definite, that's a
But
definite, that's a partially meant to me. I'm
May I
sorry.
just read it then?
Yeah.
Okay. It says maximum 750 words. And when all internal assignments have been completed, the candidates identify and comment on how their beliefs about teaching and learning and their classroom practice have changed as a result of this assignment, and then identify and critically evaluate the most effective procedures and methods or documents for reflection and observation they have used for their own professional development, and outline how they will continue to use these as part of their own continuing professional development. Unmute, please.
Again, sorry. I just told the funniest joke you've ever heard in your life. I can't tell it again. The moment's gone now. Yeah, you can start waving your arms around. Yeah, so essentially, you've looked at where you are at the beginning with the diagnostic, and then stages 2 and 3. You know, it's what's happening as the course progresses. 3 is your halfway. 4, you're getting towards the end, and you are looking at where you are, and it's more reflection. It's not, you know, as long as you meet the word count and you do what it says in this candidate should, then it's very, very rare. In fact, I've never heard of a candidate who fails module 2 because of a PDA. Yeah. Candidates fail a module 2 because of the external. I would say, and I know I'm saying this because I know people kind of want the nuts and bolts. I would say out of a group of, the last group we had in Sharjah, there were 4, 3 passed first time, and 1 still hasn't passed. And he's going to take his 3rd attempt at the external. So I would say out of a group of 4, I would expect 3 of you to get through this course and pass by June. And I would expect 1 of you not to. I would expect 1 of you either to drop out or to fail to complete the assignment, or to fail the external. Statistically, there's nothing to say that you won't all pass with flying colours the first time. Of the 3 parts, I would say part 2 is, or module 2 is the toughest in terms of workload, but it's the easiest in the sense that it's the one that we can give you most support on. Don't forget, you only need to pass 1 of your internal assignments. And I don't want you to pass 1, I want you to pass 3. But, you know, you only need to pass one and the external. Okay? So that takes the pressure off a little bit. As long as you get your work in on time, your background in on time, there's no reason why you should fail. Because if you've got a detailed plan and you hand it in at least a week in advance, then that will give the tutor the chance to really sort of notice if there are going to be any major issues. And you know, you really find that 9 times out of 10 that the internal assignments that don't pass are the ones where the teacher just hasn't given in the lesson plan in advance. It's that simple, you know. And again, 9 times out of 10 when they do, we flag it up and we say change this, and if people listen to the advice, they inevitably get through the lesson. Okay, we've got a few minutes left. I don't want to talk about the experimental now, we don't need to. Yes,
a little bit going back.
Yeah.
On page 53, part A, reflection and action, includes a series of tasks and activities which candidates work on throughout the course. So these tasks and activities were these which we were talking about in stage 1, 2, 3, 4, or
Yeah,
there some other?
You'll have a series of activities. There'll be activities that will give you in the input sessions.
Oh, okay.
To do some reflection there.
Okay.
And then there'll be the experienced teacher observations.
Uh-huh.
And the reflections you do in parts.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I think just totally lost my where's it? Oh, sorry, that's the movers. Just go back to this again. I think the other thing with doing it this late, everybody does get this kind of brain is fried after a 15-hour day, but that can't be helped. Delta. Okay, so I just wanted to go back to finish and just take you through the rest of the blog post there. Done that. Done that. Not too bad. Done most of what we set out to do. Show you available times on Tuesday. So I've shown you the diagnostic criteria. Let's have a look at this reflection and action stage. Okay. So what we still need to do here is a beliefs questionnaire selected by the tutor and tutorial to discuss beliefs either before or after the diagnostic. We'll do the tutorial after the diagnostic. So we'll do the feedback and then we'll talk about your beliefs. And the beliefs questionnaire, I will try and get that out tomorrow. Okay. And I'll simply say, send you an email with the link back to the page on the blog, and it will say, please complete the questionnaire and just keep the results for yourselves. And then we'll talk about those after the diagnostic. The diagnostic observation, we've set the dates, or we've set the wheels in motion to set the dates, and then we'll have the discussion after the lesson. And then you'll make some notes for stage 2, and I'll show you more about that in a second. And then stage 2 is your reflection and action, which we discussed. So that's a really useful document as well. So the only thing we need to do there is the beliefs question. Okay, now, here's a couple of Here is a model which I'm sure a couple of you have looked at for the stage 2. Okay. So I do strongly urge that you have a read of this. And you can see what the words look like, and you can see there's the beliefs, there's the strengths, weaknesses, and what we need to do. Notice how specific these points are. He was one of my tutors, this guy, the MSc I did in Aston, Julian Edge. Okay, and you'll continue down there. So please do have a look at that. And then here's another one as well I wanted to show you. Again, I'm just doing this so I know that you have seen it, and I can really strongly encourage you to take a look at these. These are both to standard stage 2s. So the same format. Beliefs. Notice the use of bullet points there. Strengths. Areas to work on.
Should this have citations? Are you expecting that?
Yes. Not because I'm expecting citations, but because you're expected to show how you're going to deal with your weaknesses. And it seems to me that in order to deal with your weaknesses, part of the response is always going to be to have a look at what particular practitioners say. And if you're going to look at what a particular practitioner says, then inevitably you'll need to reference that practitioner. You know, so it's less about, yeah, I need references, and it's more about, I need you to show how you're going to address your weaknesses. And that will inevitably lead to, you know, using some practitioner. Okie dokie, let me just close that. There's the rubric, there's the report. Yeah, let's have a look. So this is what we use for let me just share it. This is what we use, this is what we have to fill in at the end of the course when you hand in your PDA assignment. So I'll have one of these forms, or Tim will have one, and we'll fill it in. Now, what you do is, before you hand it in, is you imagine that you're one of the tutors and you go through and do this. And you simply go through each of these points and you grade yourself. And then you're able to make a decision about whether it's the correct standard or not. Again, I can't emphasize how important this document is. I can't emphasize enough is what I'm trying to say. And then the final document here is the one that we've already looked at. Which you used to answer the task that I gave you. And again, this should be open constantly when you do it. Okay. Right, it's 3 minutes to 8. That's it for today. You'll have Tim next week. I will send you a link tomorrow with the diagnostic questionnaire for you to fill in. And please do visit the blog periodically, as I will try to update it. Don't forget, if anybody reads or watches videos, just send me a description so I can upload it. And let's make sure that you get the observation, the diagnostic done. Just before the diagnostic, do make sure, you know, that you send some kind of lesson plan and tell us in advance what you're going to teach. Because again, it's useful to have a diagnostic which is going to be as close to a Delta type lesson as possible. So that's how you get the most valuable feedback. Okay. Thanks very much. That was a great first session. I hope you're all as tired as I am. And I will see you all in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.